Mechanism of blood coagulation. This is the third stage as far as the hemostasis is concerned. The mechanism of blood coagulation, there are at least about mechanism of blood of clotting. You see, the mechanism of blood clotting, in our blood there are at least 50 different substances. About 50 different substances are present in our blood, and some of them are procoagulants and others are the anticoagulant. Means that normally our blood in the cardiovascular systems are in fluid form. Whenever there is any damage to the tissues or to the blood vessels, and then you see there is a damage to the tissue, then the procoagulants predominates, and then it leads towards the coagulation of the blood. Normally, you see, as I told you, that the blood runs in the cardiovascular system in fluid form because the anticoagulants are predominantly acting there. So predominancy is of the anticoagulant normally in the blood. But when a damage to the blood vessels or the blood itself takes place, then the anticoagulants activity increases and can lead towards the coagulation of the blood. Now, as I told you that the basic mechanism for coagulation is this one which I told you. Normally hota kya hai, you see, when the blood ruptures takes place, there are the prothrombin activators are formed there. Means that the damage of the tissue leads to the, later on I'll tell you more detail. So prothrombin activator converts the prothrombin are formed, prothrombin activators are formed, and these prothrombin activators then convert the prothrombin into thrombin. Prothrombin converts into thrombin due to formation of the prothrombin activator, while there is a damage to the blood vessels, damage the blood itself, then you see the coagulation of the blood takes place. So now this prothrombin, the prothrombin activator, they converts the prothrombin into thrombin, and thrombin then converts fibrinogen to fibrin monomers, fibrin into fibrin. So this is the basic mechanism of the blood coagulation. Normally we know that coagulation is concerned, the formation of the prothrombin, because it takes only 20 to 13 seconds. 10 to So, once the prothrombin activator forms, this is prothrombin activator, which converts the prothrombin to thrombin, and then, once the thrombin takes place, this is the rate forming, rate limiting steps. And then, once thrombin forms, then it takes only 10 to 15 seconds, the rest of the steps to take place. Now, we know that if there is a damage to the liver, there is deficiency in vitamin K, then certain clotting factors are become deficient, and especially the prothrombin and also other clotting factors, then the coagulation does not take place properly. Bleeding tendency increases due to liver damage or the vitamin K deficiency. Now normally we know that in the blood the fibrinogen does not convert to fibrin, but once the fibrinogen comes out of the blood vessel, the fibrinogen which runs there, fibrinogen. Once the fibrinogen comes out, this fibrinogen, then this fibrinogen has got the capability to convert into fibrin. Means that only once there is a damage to the tissues or to the blood itself, when there is a damage to the blood itself or to the blood vessels, then this leaks, the fibrinogen comes out, then the fibrinogen is almost 3,40,000 is the molecular weight of the fibrinogen. So it's a big molecular weight. Normally it cannot leak from the blood vessels to come into the interstitial spaces. Once the damage to the blood vessels takes place, then this fibrinogen come out and converts into fibrin, and means that the clotting takes place outside the blood. Normally we know that you see the fibrinogen is a big molecular weight. About once there is damage to the tissue or to the blood itself, then this, what you call it, the fibrinogen, this prothrombin will act, convert into thrombin, and thrombin then converts the fibrinogen into fibrin monomers. Fibrin monomers. So these fibrin monomers, then इसी क्या होगा कि actually the fibrin monomers once they have got the automatic system to polymerize. So now these fibrin monomers, once each fibrin follicle converts into 4 fibrin monomers, 4 fibrin low molecular weight fibrin monomers, 4 in number. So these 4 in number, the what you call it, the 1, 2, 3, 4, I see these fibrin monomers has got the capability to polymerize with each other. But as we know that these fibrin monomers, once they the fibrin stabilizing factor come and act over these monomers, then these fibrin monomers converts into fibrin polymers. Fibrin monomers, 4 fibrin monomers. So now the fibrin stabilizing factor, that is the 13 clotting factor, which comes from platelets. So now these platelets, once they squeeze, they form the fibrin, they push out the fibrin stabilizing factor from the platelets, and this fibrin stabilizing factor become activated, and then fibrin activated, and then now it will come at it will be responsible for the formation of the fibrin stabilizing factor. So now the thing is that once the fibrinogen converts into 4 fibrin monomers, then these polymers has got by itself has got the capability to polymerize, and also at the same time the fibrin stabilizing factor comes from the platelet, and then this fibrin stabilizing factor is activated by the thrombin, which is forming during clotting. Now this converts the non-activated 13 factor into activated factor, and this now convert the fibrin monomers into fibrin polymers. Means that in all three dimension, these three-dimensionally, these fibrin fibers formation takes place inside the clot in all direction. In all three dimension, this fibrin clotting takes place due to the formation of the stabilized fibrin polymers. So now these fibrin polymers in three-dimensionally, once they form, the platelets are entangled into them, inside them, and you see that these ones, the clot retraction takes place. Then you see suppose this I tell you like in this way, okay, this clot which is now in this size, it can convert into very small like that. Means that the platelet has contracted due to thrombostatin and the actin myosin and the thrombostatin and the actin myosin which is present in the platelets, they are squeezed, they are come due to the action of these squeezing of the polymers of fibrin fibers, and then they come out there and then they cause contraction. Suppose the platelets normally is this size, due to the action of these two, the fibrin diameter decreases. So once the fibrin diameter decreases, then you see this the clot which has already taken place, it will convert into smaller in diameter. So first suppose the diameter was this much. Now the diameter of this clot is this much. See, in this way, the platelets which are present there inside these clot, they due to the formation, due to the release of the actin myosin and thrombostatin. So now the blood platelets, contraction of these platelets which takes place, and the size of these the clot converts into this much clot diameter. So means that diameter of the squeeze. Now once the clot squeeze, then you see there will come out from there, the serum comes out from there. The fluid portion, the serum, S-E-R-U-M, the serum will come out from there. This serum is nothing but the fluid of the clot, and it does not contain any clotting factor. This serum does not contain any clotting factors. So in this way the clot retracts and then decrease its size from this size to this size, and then the clot itself. So with the reason why this takes place, because they also, not only this, if suppose this is inside the blood vessels, then the blood vessels also decrease in size. Due to suppose I am telling you, the platelets, now normally the diameter of the blood capillary is this one. Now after the retraction of the clot present there, the diameter become this much. Normally the diameter due to this clot, normally the clot, the diameter of the, what do you call it, the clot. The clot is this much. Now it has decreased to this much, and the diameter of the blood vessel also decreased at the same time. So means that once the blood vessel contraction takes place, means that the flow of the blood flow goes down. The flow of the blood goes down, or even it stops. Once the coagulation takes place inside there, the flow of the blood is even stops even. So in this way, the coagulation takes place. Now we know that the coagulation takes place in two forms. You know, that's right. The coagulation, they takes, we know that coagulation either takes place by the extrinsic pathway or the intrinsic pathway of coagulation. There are either the intrinsic pathway of coagulation or extrinsic pathway of coagulation. As far as the extrinsic pathway of coagulation is concerned, we know that it starts with the damage to the tissues, and once the damage of the tissues or endothelium of the blood vessels takes place, the damage, due to this damage of the tissue, thromboplastin or tissue factor is released from these cellular, vascular or extravascular damaged tissues, and then this tissue thromboplastin, which is also called 13 clotting factors, they convert the factor 7 into activated form, and then this activated factor 7 and the extrinsic pathway, they converts the factor 10, which comes for the common pathway, Now this extrinsic pathway simply is that when the blood vessels are damaged or the surrounding tissue is damaged, from these damaged cells, and then this also converts the inactive form of the factor 7 to active form of the 7, and then these goes and converts the unactivated factor 10 into activated factor 10, means that then it goes to common pathway. Now, as far as the intrinsic pathway of coagulation is concerned, we know that the intrinsic pathway of coagulation, the ones that damage to the blood itself takes place. This is remember that. Okay, the difference in the extrinsic and intrinsic pathway of coagulation is that one. Okay, in case of extrinsic pathway, damage to the tissue takes place, tissue thromboplastin released from the tissue cells. But in case of intrinsic pathway of coagulation, the blood damages, means that once there is damage to the vascular wall, the collagen fibers exposed there, and also damage to the endothelial cells, and then the clotting factors which runs in the blood vessels, they come in contact to these damaged cells or the damaged collagen fibers, and then the collagen the factor 12 which runs in the blood vessels, the converts into activated form, means that the blood vessels, in the blood vessels, the factor 12, first is the converts into activated factor 12. Now this activated factor 12 now converts the factor 11, and then converted to activated factor 12. Of course, in the presence of the prekallikrein, kallikrein, high molecular weight, kininogen and platelets, etc. So they can convert the unactivated factor 11 into activated factor 11. Then activated factor 11 converts, they skip the 10th factor. Factor 10 will come later on. Now factor 9 is activated. Now the factor 9 then become activated. Then with the, of course, at the same time, because as I told you earlier, all the steps take simultaneously. So there also the factor 8 is activated by thrombin, and then the thrombin converts the factor 8 into activated factor 8, and then factor 8 plus activated factor 9, they converts the factor 10 into activated factor 10. Again, the common pathway comes there. Means that prothrombin activator ultimately will form, which converts the ultimately the activated factor 10. Activated factor 10 is formed there. Now, as you know that activated factor 10, once formed, then we know that activated factor form in the presence of the calcium, in the presence of the tissue thromboplastin, in the presence of the platelet phospholipids, in the presence of the activated factor 10. All of them, they will convert the factor, they will form the prothrombin activator. Prothrombin activator is ultimately formed, which converts the prothrombin into thrombin, as I told you earlier. See, now क्या है कि so the activated factor, the pathway, this is extrinsic pathway, this is factor third, which is by the tissue damage, factor third is released from there, and then this factor third convert the tissue thromboplastin. This is called tissue thromboplastin. So this tissue thromboplastin converts the factor 8 into active factor 8. So takes place in extrinsic pathway and intrinsic pathway of cognition. So in the extrinsic pathway, one tissue damage takes place. The tissue thromboplastin, that is third clotting factor, this is released, and then third clotting factor converts the inactivated factor 7 to activated factor 7, and then they go and convert the unactivated factor 10 to activated factor 10. Similarly, in the extrinsic pathway operation, the blood itself, the damage to the blood itself takes place. Means that once the blood damage takes place, these clotting factors which run in the blood vessels, they first is the 12th collecting factor which inside the blood vessels. These clotting factors, 12 clotting factors which runs there. Suppose there is a damage to the tissue like that. Now this will bypass there. This clotting factor 12 converts into activated factor 12. Now this clotting activated factor 12 now converts the factor 9, inactivated factor 9 into active factor 9. And then, so now if go to the intrinsic pathway, the factor 12 is activated while it comes to exposed collagen which is present in this damage area, or the damage smooth muscle, any changes takes place in the endothelium or the others. So when these factor 12 come in contact with these collagen fibers, they are converted into active factor 12. Now this active factor 12 now converts the, in the presence of the pre-kallikrein and high molecular weight kininogens. So now these pre-kallikrein and high molecular weight kininogens, with the presence of the calcium, they converts converts the unactive factor 11 to active factor 11. Then the activated factor 12, then again they converts the factor 9, and then factor 9 in the presence of the क्या है कि the thrombin converts the factor 8 into activated factor 8, and then the activated factor 8 converts the the factor inactive factor 9 into active factor 9. Now again the combined pathway reaches there, which is the activation of the factor 10. The factor 10 actually they are formed the prothrombin activator. Now the prothrombin activator ultimately is formed this active form. Now this active the what are called the platelets, phospholipids, platelets, phospholipids, and also in the presence of the factor 5 is converted into active factor 5. Then this is due to the thrombin which activates the inactivated factor 5 into active factor 5. The tissue platelets, phospholipids, and also the calcium which is added there, and also the active factor 10 which is formed also in both intrinsic and extrinsic pathway. All of them क्या है कि वहाँ पे tissue thromboplastin can also come and act there, and all of them form the prothrombin activator. So this prothrombin activator converts the prothrombin into thrombin. Prothrombin to thrombin. Once the thrombin will form, then the what you call the positive feedback mechanisms also starts at the same time, because the thrombin again converts the inactivated factor 5 to active into the active factor 5, and also the inactivated factor 7 into active factor 7. So in this way क्या है कि these ultimately form the prothrombin activator, and then it takes only 10 to 15 seconds to convert all the other steps to convert into fibrin formation. Thrombin will act into the fibrinogen to fibrin. So in this way क्या है कि the common pathway में prothrombin activators converts the prothrombin to thrombin, and thrombin converts the fibrinogen into fibrin. So in this way the clotting, the blood clots, and as I told you that once the thrombin form, then positive feedback mechanism also starts. They activate the other clotting factors, and also all the clot which is the blood which has been collected in one point, all of them starts clotting due to this positive feedback mechanism. And once the clot forms, it will fill the blood vessels. There the blood of the stoppage of the blood at the same time will takes place. Now of course these steps needs calcium. That's apart from first two steps of these steps, all the other steps they need calcium, presence of the calcium for its activation. Now as I told you that once the clot forms, either it will dissolve or fibrous tissue will form in that clot, in that blood. So once the clot formation takes place, it will take two steps. Either one is that it dissolve, or it may dissolve or a fibrous tissue formation means that repair of the dead vessel, damaged vessel can take place ultimately in this way. So now the dissolution of the blood, as I told you that the tissues which are present there in damaged tissue, they release a substance called tissue plasminogen. These cells which are trapped there, they release tissue plasminogen activator. So this tissue plasminogen activator, which is released by these damaged tissues, they will convert the tissue thromboplastin will convert plasminogen to plasmin. So this will convert plasminogen into plasmin, and this plasmin will act over the fibers which are present in the clot. They will dissolve all these fibers. Plasmin will convert all these fibers which is present in the clot, and the clot now, once the fiber dissolved, the clot will disintegrate, because we know that blood vessels are there, plasma is there, WBCs are there. So once these dissolution of these fibers takes place, the cells will they are become free and go to circulation. Okay? So in this way, this plasmin will convert the fibrin fibers which are present there in the clot, and then the dissolution of the clot will take place. Or if the clot does not dissolve, then the fibroblast invade the clot. The fibroblast will invade the clot, and then the fibrous tissue formation will take place, and then due to these fibrous formation takes place, then the clot है, it converts into इसमें जो है conditions cause excessive bleeding, embolism and anticoagulants. The page from page 457 से लेकर 461 तक, you go through these, the guidance, and you'll find all these topics there and read it as SDL.